Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Excellent Decisions podcast. This is Robert MacPhee, your host, and we are in the middle of what we're calling the Wisdom Series, an opportunity for me to share some of the amazing wisdom that I've been able to gather from my teachers and mentors over the past 20 plus years, hopefully to help you cope well and deal effectively with all the craziness that's going on in the world right now. And at the same time, this is much like the regular podcast designed to help all of you make more excellent decisions based on vision and values and value rather than stress and pressure. And I think we can all agree that in the world today, the stress and pressure has been ramped up just a tiny bit. Yes. So I'm so lucky I reached out to, I won't give you the specific numbers, but a short list of people who came to mind immediately to be part of this wisdom series. And almost all of them replied right away and said yes. So it's been really wonderful. And today I am particularly happy to have a dear friend, a mentor, a colleague, a partner, you name it. Kate Pintor, who I first met through the conscious capitalism community in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have since learned that she is literally one of the world's leading trainers in the area of the Clifton Strengths Finder work. So if you're interested in discovering your strengths and how to really capitalize and tap into your strengths, she is literally one of the world's leading experts in that area. She's also really committed to this conscious capitalism movement and doing business in better ways. She has her own coaching and consulting business, helping, I think it's fair to say, mostly women. Can I say mostly women? Is that true? Mostly women. To thrive. I talk in Excellent Decisions about achieving at a really high level, but also being truly happy. I think, your work would fall into that same category. And Kate is also just a remarkable human being. I'm just, of all the good things that have come out of connecting to the conscious capitalism movement and being actively involved there, Kate is the top of that list. She's the best thing that's come out of there for me. So I'm thrilled that she agreed to join us today. Hi, Kate. How are you doing?
Hi, Robert. I'm so happy to be here and mirroring back all that same goodness.
Good. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. And again, the idea is just to help people, get grounded and stay centered and come at this all from a place of wisdom and awareness. And someone like you sharing is really, really valuable. So I've been starting all these conversations with kind of a broad, 30,000 foot view, if you will, and just checking in and seeing what all my wise friends are experiencing. Like, what are you seeing? What are you noticing now amidst all this chaos and craziness?
That's a great question. Let's see. Well, I live along the Lost Coast in Northern California. So I'm quite physically removed from the action of the day. But I know it's coming. So I think what I'm watching is, from my vantage point online, I'm seeing a lot of people who have been preparing to show up in their businesses and preparing to show up in their life. I see a small portion of those fully committing to it. So I'm seeing this rise of courage. And then also a rise of community and coming back into the significance of creating meaningful connection. And I'm loving the online concerts. I'm loving, my husband did one last night and I recorded it. And I'm really enjoying, especially because I live so remotely. I'm like, finally, where have you guys been? I'm excited to experience more authentic relationship online, and seeing the intentionality in it has been great, since I have been sort of self-quarantining since last summer.
Yeah, we were talking about how for both of us who work at home, in some ways it's not that much different. Like, we have been living a semi-self-quarantine life already, but there's a significant impact for both of us in terms of business. How are you finding yourself coping with that kind of instant shock treatment to the revenue and the clients and those types of things?
Yeah, I think I'm fortunate that I diversified my business. So I do a lot of consulting and coaching on one side. So there's been an understanding of like needing to make new arrangements with some of those current clients. But there's a surge on the marketing and branding side. There's been like a new flow. So like my calendar is completely booked out, like because it's very interesting. So it's a different context because there's some essential services, and then supporting, needing to like really check in with a lot of the people that are in my community and providing resources for them is really important right now. And so a lot more collaboration and things like that. But for sure, we've canceled retreats the whole year, and trying to rebook them for the fall. And and quite honestly, the retreat that I had to rebook this week, we had to rebook it last fall because of the wildfires here.
Oh, okay.
So it's like these 12 people have been trying to do this for so long. And so I'm just like, I don't know if you guys are coming. Can we try for October and cross our fingers if there's no wildfire?
That's going to be an amazing retreat, though. I mean,
it's so great.
It's so much my experience when things like that happen, and you have to really go over hurdles and jump through hoops to get to something. Those are always the events or the whatever that are just magical. Like, it was so worth it to go through all that to do this. Yeah. Well, and I love your example about how you have kind of multiple irons in the fire, if you will. And as much as, like for me, traveling and, getting on a plane and going and do facilitation, that's just not happening right now. And I can look at that and be in fear and scarcity and panic and worry. Or I can look around and say, well, what can I do? Who can I serve? What is it that I bring to the table? And it might be something even, from my previous work experience. It's not a great time to go out there and be a valet parker, but, there's other parts of my previous work experience that can be really helpful to people at this time.
Absolutely.
So it's a really good reminder. So I wanted to touch on, I was kind of bragging on you in your introduction about the strengths work that you do. And it's been such a gift to me having your perspective and having you kind of walk me through some of that. And I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, but I would love to have you share from that perspective, like the importance right now and the value right now, how can increased awareness of people's strengths and focusing on strengths versus focusing on weaknesses be helpful at a time like this?
I think it's like when there's a stream of people in fear looking at what's not working, what's broken, scarcity of services, scarcity of finances, scarcity of help, scarcity of tests. Inside of that, the beauty of the strengths movement is really like when you train yourself to look for what's working and do more of that. So it's an opportunity for people to come into what is it that I know that I can do, which takes way less bandwidth because you have to conserve energy right now. So if you're focusing on being in your genius zone, which is that highest contribution that you make, highest energy source for you, highest performance at it, and you do that every day, just like one time a day, but keep serving in that capacity, that's where you want to flow your generosity. That's where you want to volunteer. That's where you want to give a little extra right now, and because it fuels you, and it makes a substantial difference for other people. So I love the movement anyway, but right now it's imperative that we balance all of what's happening out there by also, whether it's the gratitude or contributing meaningfully where it counts. Not everywhere, because that's like a hero. You're going to exhaust yourself.
Right.
Everybody right now. But if we all stay in that space of our unique contribution, we have a real opportunity in this moment.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I think, you mentioned kind of the core principle behind the strengths work, which is that we will serve ourselves better by building on and getting even better at our strengths, as opposed to trying to fix or correct or adjust and kind of repair our weaknesses. And at this time, I agree with you. And you mentioned the fires. You and I used to live much closer, which is very sad. But we were both here in Sonoma County in 2017 when the fires came raging through, and that was a terrible situation. And yet, we both, I think, observed the humanity and the true nature of people stepping up to help. And it's really cool to see some of that stuff going on. And I think what you're talking about is when we look for ways to help, and I can feel that it's palpable in the world right now. People want to help.
Mhm.
But looking at your strength, like you said, we can't do everything. Looking at your strengths, looking at what you really bring to the table, what your greatest gifts are. I think what I hear you saying is that that's the place to look to make that contribution to help people.
Yeah, and there's also like understanding what your strengths need. And like a lot of people want to know when they take the test, they're often very interested in playing to their strengths, doing more, having some kind of outcome from that. But on the flip of that, I just use it as a language to help understand who we are psychologically, emotionally. And so like everybody's strengths has a need. It wants to go give something. So it's like you have 10, 15 cylinders trying to go contribute something in the world. But if you don't know what they need, excuse me, to do that, then and to set the conditions for giving that gift, then you're going to find yourself depleted in a season like this. So
Yeah.
really understanding what they need is important.
So is there a lens through strengths about that kind of refueling? I mean, what part of what I hear you saying is kind of that, put your own mask on first kind of thing,
Yes.
but I don't know that I've ever really looked at it through the lens of strengths, like to continue to build and grow in those areas that are your strengths.
It is like you're building and growing them, but like I have a spreadsheet, which I can give you the link to, you can share it if you want, but like there's just a formula. If you just went through the columns, you could find like, this is what it's giving, this is what it needs, this is what it triggers, this is what it looks like.
I'm just laughing because the more you know Kate, the less surprised you would be that she has a spreadsheet that would
Yeah,
outline this perfectly. And what strength of yours does that highlight?
I know. I don't know if it's strategic number 2 or it's really connectedness for me, which is my number 1, which is
Well,
seeing
the
the.
sharing part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
need, the compelled to share it. Yes, that's so awesome.
Yeah. And really when we think of our strengths in terms of like people who have high empathy, high communication, high harmony, they need to be heard. Their way of getting heard is different,
Hmm.
but they do need to be heard. Empathy might not speak it out if it's not paired with a communication gift, but they do really need to be heard. So like what I've been telling people is to really tell people what hat to put on when you want to share and
Hmm.
be intentional about, well, what's the purpose of my communication? Like I need a soundboard, and then they can meet you there.
Yeah.
If you need to express, if you need to vent, if you need to sort something through, if you want coaching, be really clear what you want from the communication, especially right
Yeah. So I don't want to make this sound like a sales plug or whatever, but the truth is people can go to the Clifton Strengths Finder site and get the top 5 strengths for free, right?
now. No, it's for $20. It's not free,
Oh, it's
but
$20. Okay.
it comes with a whole book and a lot of tools. So
Yeah. So Kate doesn't make anything off that. I don't make anything off that. But if your curiosity is piqued by this conversation, you're wondering, well, what are my strengths? There are what, 34 different
34
strengths,
things. Mm-hmm.
and that $20 report, which takes very little time to go through and do the
That's like a half hour.
questionnaire, and you get some really valuable information about your strengths. It's also really amazing in relationships with people you're working with, or personal relationships, when you start to have a better understanding of other people's strengths that you're in close relationship with. It's a total game changer. So anyway, we're not here to do that. But the other thing I want to ask you, and I mentioned again in your introduction that a lot of the work that you do is with women.
Yes.
And I don't happen to be a woman, so I would love to just hear your perspective, again, just with everything that's going on right now. I find it so interesting. I'm happy that I'm remaining curious rather than scared, but I am and I'm a little scared sometimes, but mostly curious about, everything is changing. I think this is a historic time that we're going through and headed into. And from your perspective as a woman and as someone who does a lot of work with women, what differences do you see in terms of how this is all impacting women as opposed to people in general?
I think there's a couple things that I'm noticing right away, but number one, when the schools closed and daycares closed and the children are sent home, I'm really curious. This is what I'm observing is for women who work or women who are already home, but now the kids are there. There's a lot of conversation about like what's the expectation and what we should be doing, how that should look, who did it right already, what was, like there's some kind of competition for getting it right, versus like moms who work, moms who don't work. And also just like the expectation of like which dads are staying home with the kids, or is the, like the role expectation within your own household for who takes that over. Is it the woman that just automatically has to school them and do the work and whatever? And so there's a lot of buzz around that in the communities, like trying to understand the mom guilt, needing to make some new agreements. What I've loved on the flip side of that is it's suddenly acceptable for your kids to walk in and out of Zoom. What mine hasn't right now.
Not yet, but we do periodically. I've been on many Zoom calls with Kate, and I've gotten to know pretty well without, I don't think I've ever met him in person.
Right.
But I feel like I know him. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's like an acceptance of the whole entrepreneur, the whole person, there's an acceptance now. So like a barrier was dropped, whether that's in our head, but now it's like, yeah, actually we are humans with full families. And so well-being is suddenly significant. And I'm so excited to see what changes in the world as a result of that.
Yeah, and it does really shine a light on the fact that we still have those social norms, those expectations, that's just immediately going to land in the lap of women. And I think in my experience, and based on what I observe, that, I talk about with excellent decisions, not having your decisions driven by stress and pressure, that's a whole different level of stress and pressure that gets kind of diverted or redirected towards a woman. Whereas, it doesn't necessarily, and my kids are older, my kids are often on their own and, contributing members of society, empty nester, I'm living the dream, baby. But if you have younger kids, if it was earlier in our lives, I think, I was always a really active dad, and I'm pretty confident saying that I would have been actively involved in that. But I think the social norm is not that. It's that somehow just defaults to the woman, and that's a lot of stress and pressure to handle in addition to everything else.
A lot of stress and pressure to complete and fulfill those roles. And for those, some of these people have not remote worked before. A lot of the women that I'm talking to. So there's also this pressure to document, to show your work. Like so it really brings up a lot of these trust issues that you do so much facilitation around. And so it's quite powerful. But I will tell you, I am doing my excellent decisions process because I'm like, not just my thoughts, actions, results, finding some beliefs I didn't remember they were unconscious to me about who I need to be right now. And like, I'm breaking up with some beliefs that are no longer helpful, that I, again, wasn't aware of until this moment. And then thinking about, increasing detachment when it's appropriate, and also just to survive.
Well, yeah, and I think it's really interesting in this current environment that some of those processes that we, take people through and want to help people through and want to go through ourselves, they're accelerated. Like, I don't have time to take my time and ease my way through this. Like, I got to just break right through it. Like right now would be a good time to, figure this out. Getting back to the women's role, I'm curious, as a woman who works with women and does coaching and is helping women balance some of those issues, what kind of things would you tell a woman who's realizing, hey, wait a minute, this is all kind of coming my way. I've got the responsibility, for the work, and even that had more added to it. And I've now got, I can't get this image out of my head. Somebody sent me a funny image that they had staged in their house where mom was working on the computer and had three young teenagers, and they were all tied up on the floor. They had been bound and gagged. Yeah,
that was disturbing.
It was her coping mechanism. And they were clearly doing it just as a joke, and it was trying to be funny. But that's, at some point, what do? You got your work you got to do. The kids are running around like crazy. You ask them to be quiet. They're not quiet. Fine. Tie them up, But obviously that's not the advice you're going to give to the woman in that situation. But what kinds of things would you advise women, to do or keep in mind, or how to respond if they find themselves in that situation where overwhelmed?
Right. So one of the main things that I try to do is like increase the sacredness throughout the day. So over like I'm not going to be able to reduce the amount of things, the expectations of today. Like there's a certain task list. Some of my calendar isn't my own, but increasing the sacredness has really been I don't know, it's like a life-saving thing. When I say increasing the sacredness, that helps me to slow down a little bit. It helps me to make more requests. So for instance, reducing client calls by 5 minutes, so there's a little more bandwidth in between um, those moments. I'm I have scheduled, we're doing, my son is 4, we're doing uh, yoga together in the late morning. So after I don't normally do something like that in the middle of the day, but like increasing that again is just allows me to do some movement in the middle of the day and to keep the energy flowing, which is so substantial. Also scheduling some lost time of just time where I'm like, overwhelm is oftentimes where we head when we're not intentional about the relationships that we and where we're putting our time over the day. But instead of waiting for that overwhelm to signal that I need to tune in, it's really become for me about making those requests early in the day and then scheduling the movement, scheduling the break, increasing the margin in between times. And that's helped, substantially. And we're also doing a lot of, my husband and I are doing music at night, and I've seen a lot of people engaging in that more, but like play together. And because I don't want to talk about it at the end of the day, and that's what I'm finding with most women. We're doing some intentional things to support when we need, being more clear about the conversation. But you need unscheduled time. You're going to need more margin in between those responsibilities. You need to transition your state in between appointment and activity. So I'm on mom mode. I have to transition and come back in my body, put the mom hat on. And when I'm back in needing to write or do some coaching, I need to have a ritual to move me into that space. And that to me has created the greatest well-being for my clients.
Mm.
It's all energy.
Yeah. What about collaboration? And this might not be maybe as relevant for you because again, we talked about it. You're in a pretty rural area, which is, has its pros and cons at a time like this.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm noticing, and I think especially with women, and I think women are more inclined to go this route, is to find ways to collaborate and to support each other. And, the co-homeschooling, you take them today, I'll take them tomorrow kind of things
That's
that are,
exactly right.
yeah.
There was a kids Zoom call this morning where one of my colleagues had all of the kids come on Zoom. And so, which was awesome. And so they're doing that. We do intentional co-working. So Monday morning, we have an hour on Monday with some of my women clients and we set intentions for the week. Last week we were supposed to co-work on Thursday, which we do every week, but we decided, I'm like, what do you need? And they're like, we need to connect. So it was just like a moment, like be flexible with it. We don't have to do the same thing that we always do, but the connection is so important right now. So important.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Oh, man. All right. So anything else that comes to mind for you in terms of, I think ultimately what we want to help people do is be able to cope effectively. And it seems like there's this constant, here's the question. There seems to be this constant invitation into the conversation about fear and scarcity and panic and all that. So what are your suggestions for how to politely refuse that invitation?
Yeah, right. There's a lot of people wanting to hook into the fear. So, you need to detox your news feed. I'm telling you, hit that snooze button on Facebook, snooze for 30 days. And it's okay to do that. If you think of them and you're prompted, if you can go back in and undo it or go check in on them on your own time, but like cleanse, get offline, totally get offline if you need to.
Yeah.
That's a huge component. Reduce caffeine, which I'm going to do tomorrow. But there's that hypervigilance is offered up everywhere. And there are people, and I think it's okay to let let people know that you've had it. You're like, that's the edge.
Yeah.
So to do that, you might need to set some boundaries. And I've had to do a lot of that this week. And it's okay to do that. And it's okay to ask for a moment to respond, even inside of that. So you're not your autopilot in the moment. It doesn't like sabotage the relationship, no matter who it is.
Yeah.
But boundaries 100%. And figuring out where those are, that's why you need your communities to bounce that off of. Boundaries are going to be a huge part of this journey.
Yeah, I think timing wise, and again, this is a daily series where we're posting it in places where, you know, people aren't going to be, I don't think, listening to this months down the road. Hopefully they're listening to it today. And it feels like a really timely one about being willing to kind of set your boundaries. And I've noticed over the last few days, I've had to have several conversations with people to just say, whoa, 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 just tone it down. Like, I know you're, I know you're scared. I know you're worried. You know, I had like, over the weekend, I had somebody telling me, oh my God, all the New York airports are closed. And then I had, oh my God, my friend's son-in-law works in the government and they're going to shut the whole country down. You better get to the grocery store. And then there were three. I forget what the third one even was, but all of them were like, okay, that's possible, but let's verify. And, you know, I'm looking and trying to find any validation that the New York airports are closed. And, you know, after 3 or 4 hours of not seeing it on the news, I'm pretty sure it's not happening. And
Yeah.
Somebody told me California was going to be shut down. That was the third one. California, 12 weeks, you know, completely shut down, 12 weeks. Like,
I heard that one too.
okay. That's one I'd like to validate. So, but I had to have conversations with people like, okay, I'm not going to jump on that moving train with you. You know, it's just, I don't think it's helpful. So, you know, if that's true, yeah, let's validate it. Let's find out. Let's make, again, decisions, right? Let's make decisions based on what's really important to us. And if California is going to be shut down for 12 weeks, which is possible, I mean, that could absolutely happen. What does that mean? Do I have what I need? Do I need to go to the store? Is it a good time to check in with the kids? You know, I mean, but the whole panic thing, it feels like there's a constant invitation, and it's so important. And it sounds easy, like in this moment when I'm here with you and I'm feeling all comfortable and secure, you know, it's easy to say that. But I have felt that invitation really profoundly, like I'm getting pulled in.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Well, my antidote to all of that has been, so in my business, as I help women grow, you know, show up in more confidence, we're doing more videos. So we ran a TikTok challenge the last couple of weeks. And, you know, it's like people who would normally go on TikTok, but like, we're going to take it over. Like, it's going to be such a great place because there's a lot of more room there. So we've just shifted into playing more and doing, you know, empathetic messages and reaching out and just sharing our lives in a different capacity and sharing our business messages there. But we're having so much fun.
Oh.
And so, like, collectively
say that again, please. We're
having so much fun.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a fun time, but it's okay to have some fun. And it's important, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't change that, you know, there are people in our community who have loved ones who are suffering. We have loved ones in end of life. It doesn't change that, but this ability to hold mixed emotions is just a key skill that I know you cover that in all of your trainings, but like, that's really, like, I hope there's more messages around that, because I think that's something that people really struggle with. And the women that we've just done 2 huge group coaching sessions around it of, I'm really enjoying this and having all this connection. That was a need, that's filling a need that I had, I didn't even realize I had. And at the same time, hoping my mom's okay, because I can't call her, you know, or I can't reach her, or I can't go visit her. So like, we can have both of those at the same time.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to encourage people to save this episode somewhere. I think especially women, save this episode somewhere. And when it's feeling tough, just rewind and replay and just hang out with Kate, you know, for whatever it's been, 30 minutes. I looked at my clock. It's so funny. This always happens. I looked at my clock and it was like
That's
4 minutes, right? And I was like, oh my God, we're not even going to be able to fill 30 minutes. What are we going to do? I'm going to have to, do a tap dance. And I look over, 32 minutes. Like, okay. But seriously, like your energy
come
and just
connect with me. Like, come play with us. We're doing it all loud right on wherever,
yeah,
Facebook.
go to TikTok and find Kate. Like,
Play.
I've never been to TikTok. I may have to go. I don't know.
It's good.
Um,
It's
but
good.
I really do appreciate you taking the time, you sharing your perspective and just sharing who you are with my community. It means a lot to me, and I know it's really helpful to them. So thank you. If people do want to know more about you or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
KatePintor.com.
Kate Pintor. If you're driving, don't write that down. I'll put it in the description.
Mm-hmm.
But KatePintor.com. Kate is not one of those people who has 12 gatekeepers you need to get through to get to her.
There's a calendar link at the top. Go ahead and click it if you want to talk to me.
Okay, good. So thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you again for joining us for the Wisdom series that we're doing every day, not weekends, but every weekday through at least April 3rd. I had an amazing guest who reached out to me yesterday, and my all these episodes are already booked, but I may have to add at least one bonus after April 3rd based on who this person was.
Awesome.
So there may be even a couple more after, but at least until Friday, April 3rd, we'll be doing this every single day. And we're thrilled that you joined us. We hope you'll continue to join us. And whatever we can do to help you continue to make excellent decisions, to stay in that place of clarity about your vision and your values and your value, be really well equipped to handle all the stress and pressure that's happening right now, and put yourself in a position where you can really thrive, continue to achieve great things and accomplish great things. But the other thing I keep going back to is that ancient Greek definition of happiness that anyone who's been around my work for any period of time hears me say over and over again, but it's just so important, so valuable. The experience of joy while in pursuit of our potential. And again, I don't know that there's ever been a more important time to keep that in mind. And for myself, for my kids, for my clients, for all of us, that's what I want, the experience of joy while in pursuit of our potential. So thank you, Kate, for contributing to that today. And thank you to our listeners for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Excellent Decisions podcast.